Hey everybody, welcome to Workforce Gaming. I'm Doug, along with Brad.
Hello.
And this week we got a code from NIS America for Happy Birthdays, which is the Switch release of Birthdays the Beginning, a game I played and reviewed. And then Brad is actually reviewing the Switch version, which is now titled Happy Birthdays.
Yeah.
So this game I really enjoyed on PS4. I think it's like a very, very relaxing, kind of chilled out game that is kind of like I think I described it as like old school screensavers where you have like a little pet that you need to take care of, which sounds really
Yeah.
bad, but I love those sort of things. That's something I haven't really seen in a while. So I guess Brad, what is your impressions of Happy Birthdays? Because you didn't touch the PS4 one. I don't think you never touched that one, did you?
Yeah, it was one of those games I kind of had on my list of things to get to and just never got around to.
Hmm.
But getting on the Switch and being able to kind of move this around, this game feels so good being a portable game.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I could see
I
that.
think half my time with this was me and my wife watching something and me just managing my cube, which the game is, like you said, I think just the perfect, just chill, relax, have something on in the background, and
Mhm.
just see what happens. Because a lot of this is just kind of setting stuff and then fast forwarding and then seeing what happened.
Mhm.
And I guess just kind of give a quick idea of what the game is. Basically, you have this cube, and your goal is to make humans,
Mhm.
which you can follow as closely or as not closely as you want to, depending on what you want to. And basically, you change the topography of the land
Mhm.
to adjust the temperature and the amount of moisture in the atmosphere and all these things that would affect different species. So if you want lizards and dinosaurs, making it hotter for the most part, it's going to work. If you want people, getting it that nice 60, 70, it's in Celsius, so that nice like 20-ish
Mhm.
degrees is perfect for it. So a lot of it's just managing those things and then speeding time up and seeing what comes up. And I think that's one of those things that just lends itself so well to a portable game of just being able to go, okay, I can mess with it for a second. I can set it down, come back to it.
Yep.
I can mess with it for a second, fast forward for a second, play with it. It's a perfect game if you've got 10 minutes
Oh
just to
yeah.
sit down and play with. But at the same time, I think it has that Minecraft effect. And I never was able to get into Minecraft,
Mhm.
but I feel like people who are, it's just like that trying to perfect what you're looking at. There were so many times I'm like, oh, that mountain doesn't quite look right. And I want to go shape the mountain perfectly. Or like, oh,
Yeah.
this would be a good place for a waterfall. And I want to put a waterfall there. Or just kind of even just making a river around when your cube expands at one point and
Mhm.
just, ooh, okay, I got some new land. Let's put a new river here. It's just one of those things that's just, it's a good simulation game just to sit down and just enjoy making a world.
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting that you brought it up that like you kind of want to add your own little touches to it because literally it is like a blank slate and like every single little piece that you move up or down is something that you've done. So like if that mountain looks like crap, it's crap because you made it look like crap. So
Yeah,
um
you pretty much just get a flat box to start
yeah,
with.
it's
So,
really cool because like the game sort of builds this sort of sense of ownership over it. So like if you kill the species on accident, like oh no, that was totally my fault.
yep.
If I built that river and something appears, like oh no, that was also my fault. Like, cause that's what I wanted to do. I think not one of my not complaints, but I think one of the interesting aspects of this game is because you can, like you said, you're only sort of changing the global temperature one way or another, and you're sort of like kind of pushing these systems like one way or the other, but you never really have full control. Were you okay with not having that full control over the system
Oh,
at all
yeah.
times?
Yeah, absolutely. To me, that's the going back to like I used to love Roller Coaster Tycoon, Sim City, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. It's like that tornado effect where you're pissed as hell that a tornado just went through your city, but okay, I can kind of adjust some things. Or oh, people aren't going to the cool new roller coaster I just spent 4 hours
Yeah.
building.
Too
I'll
intense.
just make a new path, or I'll just adjust something. Like so,
Hmm.
I like that the game has you. You do have that God mode essentially of like being able to control everything, but the game also has some balance in there of going like, yeah, but here's our systems. It's just not going to be like, oh, you put a river here, all of a sudden that whole area is filled with trees and animals. Now it's okay. There's some flowers, there's some trees. I like the slow build. I like that everything feels natural. Nothing
Yeah.
feels forced and nothing feels like you just got it by random chance.
Yeah.
Everything seemed to have the systems in place that you could always control, that you could always get to making something happen.
Hmm.
And I like that. And I think that there's just enough of that control. There's just enough minute detail tuning
Yeah.
to make it interesting, but not too much where it's like, oh my God, I just need to go do this one little thing 600 times. nothing really felt monotonous.
Yeah, I think it's kind of cool because I think it gives you just enough. It gives you just enough control to get to the objective animal you're trying to get to. Of like, okay, I need to make it this temperature, but because there's all these other systems, there's a lot of surprises along the way of getting to that thing.
Yeah.
Like because okay, yeah, like let's say because the thing I was like is so I need to get to a certain temperature to get this animal. So as I'm lowering the temperature, this is actually meeting the requirements of a bunch of other species and stuff. So all these other species will kind of explode. It's like, oh, I didn't know I was getting a dinosaur or getting
Yeah.
a hawk or something weird, and so it just appeared because it met the requirements, even though my goal was to meet the requirements for something else.
Yeah, and I think that's the coolest part is they use like the very scientific names when you're in the
Yeah,
mode where you're just
yeah,
kind of staring at your cube, letting time speed up, and it'll be like, oh yeah, the something something appeared, and it'll be like, that picture kind of looks like a monkey. Did I get a monkey?
yeah,
And then you zoom in, and you're like, oh look at that, there's a new monkey, and
yeah,
just always this funness of zooming in and seeing what's new, what changed, where did my animals go, like are there more trees, like and just as you go through there, just seeing that every time you zoomed in, you got something new is always cool. Whether
yeah,
it was something like some little lizard or like a little rat or a new fish, every time you zoom in, my first thought they put pink dots on your mini map for where the new things are.
yeah,
My first thing every time you zoom in is like, okay, what is this thing? What's it going to be? And especially when you start getting towards the end, or even when you get to some of the cooler ones, it's just like that feeling of like, oh my god, like there's a Stegosaurus. I got a Stegosaurus.
yeah.
This is so cool.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Like, it feels like the whole game sort of shifts at certain points when you kind of move to like a new. I don't know if it's a genome or family or whatever, but basically it's like when you move from because you do start like through the evolutionary chain. Like when you move from like jellyfish and fish to your first creature on land, and your first
Mhm.
first creature on land to your first little dinosaur, and then for your first little dinosaur to your first big dinosaur, for your first big dinosaur to your first mammal, to your first mammal to your first this to that to that. And I do like that because it feels like it's sort of this like aquarium that is adding fish that I don't necessarily intend, but it's cool
Yeah.
to see a new fish.
Exactly. And I think I really just think that that's where this game is fun to me
Yeah,
is in that unexpected nature.
yeah,
I just played Stardew Valley like a month or two ago,
mhm,
and I think those are very similar concepts, but Stardew Valley to me got old and monotonous kind of a lot quicker than this did just because it didn't have that unexpected nature to it.
mhm.
Stardew Valley, every time I woke up, I could kind of get an idea of what I was going to have happen, what was going to need to be there. This, I felt like every time kind of it was something new every single time I came back to my cube.
Yeah, yeah. No, that is true. That is really cool. I think one of the things we never really talked about was sort of like the setup for the game is really kind of like weird and odd and kind of gives me like it gives me like Dreamcast vibes where there's like
Yes.
like we had this cool gameplay concept and now we need to sort of have like these weird characters to sort of justify this like these game mechanics.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you like want to talk about it a little bit, but like the context for the game is like really interesting where you have like your little superhero avatar. I haven't played it in a long time, so maybe you can like quickly explain like what the concept of this like the story concept and framing
So
of the game
basically the
is.
concept is like you wake up and now you're in some other world and this like godlike thing, your avatar is just the cube, but you're paired up with this thing that flies around. And in order to get back to your reality,
Yep.
you have to make this reality as close to your reality, which is why you need modern humans because you are a human.
Hmm.
And when you get humans, then you'll be allowed to go back to your own reality.
Yep.
Yep. And it's one of those things where it's like, it's that weird middle ground where it's like, if there was no story to this other than like, there's some new land, let's form it and see what we can make. Like, you're like, okay, there's no story to this, that's fine. But then it's like that like half step where you're like, but are you gonna do something with this?
No.
Because that was the thing is like when you start up, it's like I mean it looks like almost visual novel style where
Yeah.
there's probably a good 5 minutes worth of text and some pictures to go along with it. Where it's like oh yeah, you open this book and you find this thing and you end up in the cave and then magically this appears. And you're like whoa, okay, there's something going on here. And then it's just like yeah, make humans.
Yeah.
And then you make humans like oh yeah, remember you can go now. You're good.
Yeah. Oh no, exactly.
You're done. It's one of those weird things where you're just like, I don't quite get why we put this here, but hey, cool, good on you. Like, it got me hooked a little bit, but
Yeah.
it was just enough of that hook at the beginning to be like, oh, okay, there is a purpose to what I'm doing. I really wish this either was more developed or not here. Either way would have been fine with me, but okay.
Yeah, no, oh yeah, for sure. It is really fun. Like you're saying, it's like literally just like 3 paragraphs of text. I don't even know if it's narrated. Um,
It's not narrated. No, you have to read it.
yeah, okay, so yeah, it's like a paragraph or two of text, and it's like, here's the game, and then the game ends, and there's like 2 or 3 more paragraphs of text, and that's the whole thing. The thing I did like about it though is that it is kind of interesting. It's kind of like one of those like weird discussions of like where did we come from sort of thing that I think not the story doesn't necessarily touch on, but the game I think like tries to touch on a little
Yeah.
bit of this like God as a clockmaker or God as a who. And it's kind of interesting that sort of this thing that's like you as the player are it is a god game, I guess is the best way to describe it,
Yeah.
and you're sort of you have these goals in mind to get to these things, and evolution is sort of the process in which it gets to these things. It kind of made me think about some of that stuff. I don't know if like you had any of those thoughts while you were playing the game at all, or just like, okay, this is just a fun game, don't think any more about it.
It definitely like, just because of the idea of like you're creating life, and it does dwell on that a lot of like, oh, you made this happen.
Yeah.
I think it does get into some of those things, and there's a whole lot of like philosophical and complex things you could take this route down that I don't necessarily feel like this is the place for, but
I think it'd be a cool video. Maybe later, the
dissecting
philosophy
the
of,
religious philosophy of birthdays the beginning. But anyway, I mean, it's nothing like blatant like, oh my
Yeah.
god, like,
oh no, not at all.
but it's one of those things that does make you think about as you're going through. I guess kind of to wrap this up, this is one of those games that I love.
Yeah.
It is by no means a perfect game. There are definitely some faults in this as we go through here, and we could touch on those, I think, if we wanted to, but
Mhm.
I think if you've played a lot of God games before, you'll get the same complaints of like, okay, like some of the systems were too weird. There
Yeah.
were some different things where I didn't feel like I had control. There were some things that I feel like I did, but it didn't register. Like, all those things are there. But I think this is one of those games where if you watch this video and you see gameplay of this and you think, that's interesting, I'd like this, you will like this game. If
Oh,
you
yeah.
look at this and go, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
You're going to hate this game.
You're not the target audience for this game at all.
Yeah, this is one of those games that I really like, but I need to think long and hard before I'd recommend it to somebody.
Yeah.
Just because it is a much different beast than a lot of games.
Yeah. I actually I'm almost like curious like to pick this up just because it's now portable. I think that also changes a lot of it too because it has that sort of drop in drop out. No, I'm glad you liked it because I think it is. I think even in my previous review too, I said it's like there's a demo on PS4. Like if you like that demo, you're gonna love it. If you see this and you see this, oh, that looks cool. Like you said, it's great, but that's pretty much where you can leave it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right, we are Workforce Gaming. If you guys like what you heard, you can always follow us at Workforce Gaming on Twitter and subscribe to us wherever you listen to us on. We'll see you guys next week.
See ya.